Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
Hello. How are you doing this afternoon, my friend?
I'm feeling pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm a little sleepy, but I'm really stoked to talk about this show. I've watched the show like it feels like a week ago, maybe.
It's probably actually literally been close to a week at this point.
Yeah. So and I because we do this on a regular basis now, I try to contain everything, and to talk about it fresh here. So I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about Altered Carbon.
Indeed. So I just finished the show myself, pretty much maybe an hour or so prior to recording this. So my thoughts are certainly fresher, I would say, than yours are. But it'll be a fun discussion. I think there's certainly a lot to talk about, and hopefully we get through as much as we can, because there's definitely a lot going on in that show. But I am excited to get into it because it is. I mean, this is kind of the first episode in a good while where we're really only going to be talking about one major topic. It seems like it's been, it probably has literally been, close to at least a month or two since we've actually had a, proper standalone episode.
Yeah, it feels like it's been forever. Everything's been, we haven't had a core episode in a while.
Well, before we get into Altered Carbon, we are going to do our usual cycle of news. We're going to start off in a bit of a somber mood. A couple of folks in Hollywood have passed away over the past week or so, first of which is Reg E. Cathey, actor, probably best known for Freddy in House of Cards and his role in The Wire, is dead age 59. His passing was announced by the creator of The Wire, David Simon, and definitely a very recognizable actor. You see him in a lot of things, and it was actually recently announced that his final film role, his final role in general, will actually be on Marvel's Luke Cage, where he's going to play Luke Cage's father in the upcoming second season. So we can certainly look forward to seeing his final performance in hopefully just a few months' time, sometime later this year, I'd imagine. But definitely sad to hear that.
Cause of death?
No, nothing on that. No other details have been given. But the other one is Jóhann Jóhannsson.
And we were just talking about him.
Yep, it's a name we just had on the tip of our tongues when we were talking about our Best of 2017. He was the one that worked on Mother with Darren Aronofsky, and he was a composer, probably best known for his work on The Theory of Everything, Sicario, and Arrival. And he has passed away at the age of 48, which is certainly, definitely a shock, I think, to the world. Again, no real details other than he was found dead in his apartment in Berlin. And I'm sure we'll hear something on that front, in the coming weeks. But pretty insane. And his work on Sicario, Sicario's tension and everything is just driven by everything that Jóhann Jóhannsson brought to the table with this score, and really the same thing with Arrival too. And it's been a while since I've seen The Theory of Everything, but I know he won a Golden Globe for that score, so obviously that was pretty good work and well recognized for it. So
right,
yeah. So a couple pretty sad losses. Just too young. 59, 48. It's too young. Moving into kind of our more traditional news. I don't know if this is a traditional a bit of news, but Michael Fassbender set to star as the lead in a feature film adaptation of Kung Fury. Now, did you see Kung Fury, the original one? It's like a 30-minute short. Okay, I
absolutely.
I was almost positive you did. For those who aren't aware, Kung Fury is like an 80s cult short that was made 2015, I think it was. It actually got a Kickstarter, I think is how they kind of got the funding on it, but it's just complete insanity. How do you even describe something like that?
It's like a hodgepodge of everything wonderful from 80s action movies. It's just completely fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
It's a really creative piece. And it's incredibly fast paced, just boom, 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 boom. It's definitely a fun ride for half an hour.
Yeah, it really kind of handles that throwback nature of it while tying it into a very cheesy, awesome package. I don't know, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I don't know that it's for everyone, but I don't know. The fact that it's getting a feature film adaptation, and B, Michael motherfucking Fassbender is going to be in it. To me, it's just like, okay,
right?
That's interesting.
Hasselhoff was in the first one.
And on that note, he's coming back.
Oh, fuck yeah. Oh, man. Awesome.
So
I'm all in.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see what this ends up looking like. I don't know. I mean, is it going to wear thin if you do it for an hour and a half versus a half hour? I'm not sure, but I'm willing to give it a chance. So
absolutely.
Tim Miller, director of the first Deadpool, and Brian Michael Bendis, comic book writer, created Jessica Jones, makes Alias technically, and wrote I think actually all of Ultimate Spider-Man as it was. They're joining forces, and they're working on a movie that is going to be set in the Fox X-Men universe, titled 143. So there's not really a whole lot of details on this, other than it's mostly assumed that based on the 143 title, it's referencing a Uncanny X-Men comic about Kitty Pryde, Shadowcat. So the thought process is that this is going to be a Kitty Pryde movie, or at least going to involve her in some respect. Of course, assuming that this movie actually gets made. To me, I guess it's one of those things until basically the whole Disney-Fox deal goes through. Fox has to kind of pretty much treat things as business as usual. In case things don't happen, they can't just twiddle their thumbs for a year and stuff like that. But I guess certain things, if you get them too far along into the production process, it's probably more trouble to cancel it than it is to keep it going. But
it's a complicated thing,
Yeah, but I don't know. It's as this Gambit. There's a few of those that like they keep saying they're going to make, and I'm like, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I would have put good money on the fact that a Venom movie would never get made by Sony, but here we are. So. Never say never, I suppose.
That's it.
Couple posters for The Incredibles 2 debuted. Got one of the Incredible suits in a laundry basket.
There you
go. Got one with Edna Mode, the costume designer from the first one.
Yeah.
And it looks good. It seems like there's a lot of details kind of coming out on this, so I'm expecting a trailer on this pretty soon. We got the teaser, obviously a little while back, but like I kind of mentioned, I think on our 2018 episode, we didn't really get a lot of details actually about the movie itself, other than, hey, it's happening. So I'm definitely expecting to see a bit more of a bigger blowout on this. I mean, it's out in July, so it's not too far away, really.
Right.
So seems right, but we shall see. Maybe come next week we'll be talking about it again.
Speaking of trailers, what'd you think about the Quiet Place trailer?
I think the teaser did a better job of kind of establishing it. This one, I don't know. I mean, it looks fine,
right?
It didn't exactly wow me, I guess I would say, but I think it looks pretty solid. Jim from The Office, putting in some work.
Yeah, the beginning of his massive 2018 career.
Indeed. I mean, I'm going to see it. It looks interesting. I like the premise of it. It's kind of the same thing. I wonder, can you maintain that effectively over presumably at least an hour and a half period? I mean, it's tough. I mean,
right.
That's definitely it's an intriguing concept. I just wonder, can they pull it off? And I don't know. I mean, I don't know that there's enough to really say one way or another without seeing the movie at this point. So I'm intrigued, and I guess I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll see what it is. At first, I thought it was going to be something like a supernatural kind of deal, but apparently they're going for the monster movie kind of thing. So we'll see how it plays out.
Indeed. We got another monster movie of sorts coming out this summer.
George, where's George? George, hey, George, buddy, George, are you ready, George? Are you ready to do this, George? Hey, George. It's like, fuck, how many times can you say George?
There's a contractual obligation for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to have George included in every bit of his dialogue.
Is it me, or was it just excessive how many times he said George?
He did seem to say George a lot. The movie in question that we're talking about is Rampage, starring George and The Rock and George. And
George.
I think George might be in it as well. I'm not sure, but my understanding of the situation is that George will be present in some capacity.
Man.
I gotta say, I saw I guess the first trailer for this, and I was just like, I don't know, it looks kind of like dumb fun, but I don't think it's gonna be good. But I saw this one, and I'm like, dude, this looks fucking incredible.
You're excited about this one, huh?
No, it doesn't. No, it looks like shit.
Okay, so that was sarcasm. Okay, because I was like, I don't share your sentiment, man. I think it looks like pretty shit.
I mean, I feel like it could be enjoyable, but it just like I fully believe that The Rock is a talented actor, like a legitimately talented actor, but he just looks like he's fucking phoning it in this movie. Like,
of course, the wolf flies too.
Well, maybe it's just the way the trailer's edited, but literally every bit of his line is either about George or it's just some really shitty one-liner, and it's just like, this just looks rough all around. I will go on the record in saying that the only redeeming factor that this movie could have is if The Rock turns into a monster to fight with the monsters.
That would be awesome.
If that happens, that would be, I'm fucking in. 100% sold.
Giant rock Hulk, is that what you're saying?
Wait, I mean, he'd probably mutate into a monster. It doesn't have to be like literally like a giant form of The Rock, but... I mean, that would be fine too.
That would be fine.
That would be a little.
Great.
I guess maybe that'd be a little Scorpion King-esque. Now that I think about it, perhaps they want to avoid the comparison.
Jesus. Ready Player One throwback poster.
It's pretty cool looking.
It is pretty cool looking.
Very stylish. Very Drew Struzan.
Yeah, it scratches that kind of itch, doesn't it? It's so cool.
Yeah, I really, really like this poster. I hope that the movie can live up to it. Because this to me imparts like a very awesome 80s throwback vibe, and I know that's what the movie is striving for, but I don't know if it's going to hit that tone exactly. I mean, I guess theoretically, if you're going to hire any one person to be able to kind of recapture that, it would be Spielberg. So
absolutely,
pieces are in place.
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest with you, even if the movie's shit, I wouldn't mind owning that poster. That poster just looks...
I mean...
It's really nice.
I agree with you in principle, but if it does turn out to be a disaster, then I probably wouldn't.
You would not buy that. You would not buy that poster.
No, probably not. I respect what you're going for, but I'm not sure that in execution I actually agree with you.
Like you would come over to the house and you would see it hanging on the wall, and you're like, I can't believe you bought that poster. It's dog shit. It's like, yeah, but look at it. It's pretty. It's a pretty poster, man. It's fucking cool.
The poster would be cool. It would just be like, what a missed opportunity. That could have been good.
Right?
Now you just got a poster of a shitty movie on your wall.
Anyways, what else do we got for TV or for movie news?
We got one last bit of movie news. 20th Century Fox has shuffled some release dates around. Most notably, Alita, Battle Angel, getting a big old delay of 5 months, moving from July 20th to December 21st. What do you think about that?
I think it's needed.
Yeah, that's honestly my thought on it as well. 5 months of working on the CG sounds great. So hopefully that is in fact what they're using it for. It's kind of crazy because December 21st, if I recall correctly, is already pretty fucking stacked. Yeah, that's got Aquaman, Bumblebee with John Cena, and Holmes and Watson. So and that now includes Alita, Battle Angel. Like that's crazy to me. I think something's going to have to move.
Well, we got a lot of time left, like we were talking about in the 2018 episode.
Yeah, I think something's going to shuffle around at that point. To me, that just seems like a bad date for them to move it to. But, I mean, they did it, so I'm sure there's a thought process behind it that I'm not privy to. But I don't know.
Are these all those movies different production houses and stuff?
I believe so. Aquaman would be WB, Bumblebee would be Paramount, Alita would be, what did I say, Fox?
Is that Fox, yeah.
And then Holmes and Watson, I'm not sure what studio houses that is, but...
a lot of competition there.
That's Sony. So, yep, they're all competing studios that they're coming from.
There's a lot of space to fill if we're not getting a Star Wars release at Christmas.
I guess I mean that's what it is. They're like, oh fuck, Star Wars is abandoned the late 2018, so we'll swoop in and capture it. Except everyone's had the same idea, and now you're at the point where like, fuck, we're all just gonna cannibalize each other.
That's it.
A couple other release dates. I guess really only one that they moved around in addition to Alita was The Predator, which they've moved back 6 weeks from August to September 14th.
Okay.
So not much of a delay there. That I'm cool with that. it seems like I feel like September was pretty lacking in terms of things I was interested in anyway. So
yeah.
Then again, August was too. So yeah, I mean, I'll see it whenever it comes out. But to me, that doesn't suggest like, oh, okay, there's some sweeping changes. It sounds like that's just more of a scheduling thing that they're worried about.
Right.
And lastly, they've set a November 8th, 2019 release date for Death on the Nile, the sequel to Murder on the Orient Express.
Okay, right on.
Kenneth Branagh expected to return.
Mustache?
With his mustache intact, I would imagine, yes. So,
yeah. Comes back with a shaved mustache. That would be the mystery. What happened to Kenneth's mustache? Anyways, TV news.
Yep, TV news. So this is just kind of a follow-up, actually, to the story we talked about last week of the Game of Thrones creators, David Benioff, D.B. Weiss, writing and producing a new series of Star Wars films. Mm-hmm. That's going to take a lot of time and effort. It's probably fair to say. They were supposed to be working on a series for HBO after the conclusion of Game of Thrones called Confederate. They announced this in like a press release sometime last year. And
middle of last year.
There was a major backlash to it. I mean, it was basically, the idea was it's an alternate timeline where the southern states have succeeded from the Union, and now there's a nation where slavery is still legal and it's involved into a modern institution. And so it's about the Third Civil War is kind of what it's supposed to be said about. But yeah, it didn't go over so well for HBO. It sounds like at this point it's probably not happening, especially given, like I said, they're obviously shifting their focus towards Star Wars instead of this show, which
I can't blame them. I take Star Wars over a Confederate.
Well, yeah, it's not just that too. I mean, yeah, it's fucking Star Wars, so of course you'd go for Star Wars. But pretty much the way that this thing got rolled out, it seemed like it was doomed to fail from day one. So probably a pretty savvy decision to pass up on this and elect to go for the Star Wars. I think that's a good move. So
absolutely.
If this is the last we hear about Confederate, I would not be surprised.
So be it.
Other TV news: Martin Scorsese teaming up with the writer of the Vikings TV show on history, Michael Hirst, to create a series called The Caesars about the ancient Roman Empire. It'll tell the story of the early rulers of ancient Rome, beginning with the rise to power of Julius Caesar. It's got a pilot written and an outline for the rest of the season, and filming is expected to begin, I guess, next year. So it's a little ways away, but they're obviously hard at work on this. Sounds interesting. I'm not sure if there's a network that's been attached to this or how that's working. I know Vikings, like I said, is history, so I'm not sure if the implication is that it would be on there as well, or if they'd be shopping it for other networks. But not the first TV show about Rome that we've seen. HBO had their own series, appropriately titled Rome, for a couple seasons there. I haven't watched that personally, but I've heard it's very good. And I would be interested to check this show out, when it does eventually kind of come around. Definitely a pretty cool time period to explore, and seems like pretty good talent. So what do you think?
Yeah, I'll take a room. Now, Vikings looked intriguing, but I never watched it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Never watched it myself either. It's on my list. I think it's available on Amazon to stream, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's the balance, man. It's the walk we walk. What are we going to watch? There's just so much available content to watch.
There is. Yeah, it's tough, especially when you're trying to watch 50 shows on the CW. So it's hard to balance it all,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, definitely willing to give this a whirl whenever it does come around. So
tell you which one I'm going to watch when it comes out.
Is it A Series of Unfortunate Events Season 2?
Holy shit, dude! Oh my god, I can't believe you guessed it.
Sometimes I feel like we're on the same wavelength, It
helps when you create the wavelength. But I will say that they released a Series 2 official teaser, and it is it looks similar in tone and everything else to the first one, but I'm excited about it. What'd you think about it, seeing that you haven't watched the first season?
Looked like fun. I mean, it's definitely something that I meant to catch the first time around, and now that I've got season 2 coming out, seems like a good as time as any to try to get on the wagon and get caught up.
You can burn through it pretty quick too. I
Yeah.
mean, it's definitely digestible in a binge fashion.
Yeah. Like I said, I thought this looked like fun. So I know we've talked about it a couple times before. So yeah, I probably said those times that I was going to try to catch up on it. I sticking to the word. I'm still going to try. Doesn't mean I will. I just means I'm going to try at some point in my life. Other TV news, Amazon, Bosch has been renewed for a 5th season. And I guess it hasn't actually had its season 4 debut yet, but apparently Amazon's pretty confident about this show. And I bring it up. I know it's not something that you've watched. It's definitely not something I've watched, but I bring it up because you mentioned on our 2018 episode that if any of our listeners wanted to throw in suggestions on things we should pay attention to, then they should do so. And so on that note, I would like to mention that Bruce Brown, an avid listener of the show, who also happens to be my father.
And a Patreon subscriber.
Yep, indeed. He's a big fan of Bosch, so that was one of the shows that he recommended to us. So I have heard good things about this. It's got Titus Welliver. I think he's a homicide detective.
Okay. When does season 4 hasn't debuted yet? So
season
when
4
that
comes
due to
back in
air?
April. April 13th is season 4.
Okay, and how long are the seasons?
That is an excellent question. I would guess probably on the shorter side, maybe 10, 13 episodes, but I don't know that for a fact. Oh, I lied. I do know that for a fact. Season 4, I can't say anything about seasons 1 through 3, but season 4 is 10 episodes, so I imagine that's probably pretty consistent between all the seasons prior to this, because I think it's been an Amazon original series, I think, since the get-go, so...
All right. Well, I will satisfy our Patreon subscribers, and I'm finishing Dark now. I picked that back up, and I will begin digesting this show, and maybe we can cover it when season 4 debuts.
Maybe, yeah. If I get caught up too, like I said, I'll try.
Yeah, at least at the very least, maybe we can put out a monologue of my thoughts on Bosch.
I'm sure he would love that. I'm sure everyone would love that. Not just specifically him. I'm sure everyone would love that.
Well, hello, listeners. You're listening to my review on Bosch. Anyways, moving forward.
Yeah, Atlanta. We got a trailer for second season. Atlanta Robbin season. Did you watch this?
Yes, I did watch your official trailer of the season 2 Robbin. It looked pretty funny. I might have to look into the first season and kind of catch myself up because I'm quickly becoming a very big fan of the new Tupac.
What?
That's what he called himself. He called himself the new Tupac. He thinks he's Tupac.
Okay. Donald Glover, I assume.
Yeah, Donald Glover.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, I am looking forward to this one myself. Big fan of the first season, and yeah.
How many episodes is that one?
I think it was only 10. So again,
okay,
definitely one you can get through,
show.
and that was a half hour long too, so that's even easier to get through.
Is it serialized? I'm assuming it is, right?
Kind of. I mean, I think there's kind of loose connections. The characters and stuff are all kind of consistent, but I think that. I mean, there's a general through line, but most of them kind of deal with their own things. So
okay, I got you.
Yeah, I think that's it for the news, isn't it?
I think so.
Well, you ready to talk some Altered Carbon?
Altered Carbon, Netflix's original series, created by Laeta Kalligrotis, screenwriter of Shutter Island, and co-writer of Terminator Genesis, the old classic Terminator film, starring Joel. This is Katana. Kinnaman. Cut you in half like mowing the lawn.
James Purefoy, Martha Higarita, a few other people in there. Those are the only ones I have on my list. Who else is in this? Chris Connor, Deacon Lockman, Atua Sando, Kristen Lehman. Yeah, there's a bunch of people in this that people have probably never heard of, but that's totally cool. You might recognize them if you saw them. This is set in the future. Consciousness is digitized and stored, and the TV show kind of follows a prisoner that returns to life in a new body, and he must solve a mind-bending murder to win his freedom. So, what'd you think about this show?
I thought it's kind of a loaded question because I feel conflicted about it. I thought it had a lot of style, super high points for style. There's some really awesome choreography during some fight sequences and stuff. Super big fan of that. Super fan of the world building and just the atmosphere and just it feels like a very the material's very flushed out, right? It feels like a very realized world. And the score, I thought the score was pretty good. I haven't looked up who did the score yet, but the score was something to make note of. And it's just it's an interesting show with an interesting concept with a lot of high points. But I feel like I think it got weighed down by the amount of things it tried to cram into itself. I think it tried to cover too much in too short of a span. Like maybe break it up into a different season or just cut it out altogether or what have you. But it wasn't written in a the writing and pacing did not complement the rest of the show in a big way. I still think it was thoroughly entertaining though. I enjoyed watching it. How'd you feel about it?
I feel very similarly. I do agree. Certainly an entertaining show. Certainly a beautiful show. It's unfortunate that I would say that kind of the pieces didn't add up in a way that I think that they probably could have. So, kind of from the top, I guess, I mean, probably the biggest standout feature of this show is just the design of the whole thing. From the, the world that it kind of realizes, visually speaking, and the costume designs and everything about it is just, I mean, it's very Blade Runner, don't get me wrong. It's obviously pretty heavily inspired in that regard, but it's still fucking spectacular to behold. It's pretty clear that they put a lot of money into this show, and it definitely paid off in a big way in terms of kind of how it really looked. I mean, there's times where it's almost hard to fathom that this is something that is a TV show, and I guess that's kind of that's kind of the difference, I think, probably between a Netflix type show versus your cable network type show, where they're not afraid to throw some serious money down on it. And so from that standpoint, I mean, it is definitely a bit of style over substance in that regard, but fuck, is the style good. And it's good in its own right, don't get me wrong, but it is also just the whole aesthetic is everything that just I really like anyway. So it's kind of a double whammy. Absolutely. In the sense that, okay, it's good, but it's also like, fuck, this is like this show was made for me.
But even if you don't like, even if you're not into, and don't get me wrong, I don't think if you're into sci-fi you're gonna like this show. I think it's definitely sci-fi. But from like an artistic kind of standpoint, with like the cinematography and the way the shots are framed and everything else, it's a well shot show. I think it's got high merits in everything else other than the I guess the script, or how would you do that? What would you say the critique would be there?
I mean, I think largely it boils down to probably just deficiencies in writing and in the general overall storytelling, I would say. But I mean, starting again, sticking with things that I kind of liked before I kind of turned sour on it and get into things that I didn't like too much. I was pretty impressed with Joel Kinnaman in this, and that kind of caught me by surprise.
Shit, yeah.
Because prior to this, my, I guess, really biggest exposure to him was in Suicide Squad and RoboCop, neither of which were performances that really inspired any sort of confidence in his acting ability. Now, to be fair, he did kind of play like a gruff, standoffish character for most of the season, but there were times where, he had the chance to kind of, absorb the moment and emote a little bit more than he had previously. And I thought that he did a really strong job as Takeshi Kovacs in this show.
I hear that he has high praise in a show called The Killing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know. I think my mom actually watched that show, and I recall her liking it pretty well. I haven't seen it, but I have heard that he's good in that. So I think maybe it's just, I mean,
it all reflects back to the material. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it would have been very tough for anyone to pull off certainly Suicide Squad. I mean, I think RoboCop's a little bit better than that in the scheme of things, but still not exactly highbrow material. Not that this is either, really, but there's certainly, I mean, honestly, if there's one thing in terms of the writing that I think that they crushed, it was the writing for Takeshi. I thought that his characterization was great. I thought that, I mean, I guess if you're going to get the writing for any one character right, getting it for your main character is probably a good starting point. And so I think that they definitely did a good job with that. In terms of kind of, seeing him in the present, as the Joel Kinnaman sleeve, and seeing kind of the flashbacks that we do get to see of a couple different iterations of him, portrayed by Byron Mann and Will Yun Lee. So I thought the character of Takeshi, I thought, was really well done. I'll probably talk about that a little bit more, maybe in our spoiler section. But outside of him, I gotta say I didn't love the cast. I didn't love the supporting characters as much as I think that they were inconsistent, I guess I would say. I think that there are times when they're good, there's times when they're bad, there's times where they just kind of feel like they're just sitting in the frame doing nothing for a couple episodes at a time, and then they're like, oh, now they're plot relevant, let's bring them back. I think there's a lot of that going on.
It's just so much crammed in, man. They crammed a lot of shit in.
I think maybe that's kind of what you're talking about, is that there's just too much going on for kind of for its own good, really, in the sense that characters get shortchanged, and it doesn't mesh, I think, the way that you want it to, because I watched this show, and like I said, it's just this whole style is just like, this is fucking incredible. Like, Blade Runner 2049 is the perfect marriage of that style and a script that is awe-inspiring. This falls short in that latter regard, in the sense that I think there's pieces here that do work on their own. They just never quite gel the way that they did in, for example, Blade Runner, or really both Blade Runners, honestly. But more specifically the sequel, just because that's kind of the more recent comparison that I make in my mind. But
see, I think the critical difference is they, with a lot of Blade Runner, I feel like a lot of that storytelling was conveyed in other means other than script. You know what I'm saying? It was told through framing, and told through cinematography and score, and a lot of different things. Where I think that, and this is, like I said, this is just my opinion, I think that this show felt the need to try to explain every ounce of everything, and I think it did it in
a very confusing fashion.
It did, because
there were times that I was just completely fucking lost in this show.
Right. Okay. So I don't feel so bad, because I felt that way. I was watching it, and I was enjoying what I was seeing, but I kind of wasn't sure what the fuck was going on. There were certain characters and stuff that were, it was very, I don't know. Like I said, I think they tried to explain too much.
It was way too expository in times, to the point where,
yes,
they would dump a monologue of information on you for a minute, and then they would they would address that like 3 episodes later and just assume what the fuck was going on. I don't know what was going on. I don't remember any of that. There was a lot of that kind of going on, where it's just like, I like it. I'm kind of getting it, with context, but they're talking about shit, and I'm just like, I don't know what's going on here. But I think there was a lot of that, and I think it was definitely a case of just too much going on at once, where it's tough. I mean, you kind of try to establish this world, and I think it just kind of expands it sometimes in clumsy ways.
And it's not only that too, but there's a lot of modern day parallels that are told through through the show. And I think that you could have still had those parallels without having to have a monologue by Bancroft. He monologues a lot of shit. And it's like, you could just do whatever it is you're doing, and we can, you can draw that conclusion without having to explain everything. You know what I mean? I just didn't need it. I didn't need a lot of the things that they tried to cram in there.
It's just not a particularly clever show, I guess. It's
right. It tried to draw from clever things. It just didn't. I don't think it executed it the way it needed to.
It's far more on the nose than it needed to be, I think, is probably a fair way to put it.
Exactly.
Not to criticize, the writers, but certainly, with some more talented folks on board, I think that you could have had a stronger piece of television, or at least a better written piece of television, in terms of really kind of bringing together the connective threads that did exist. Because I think I've said it already, but I think that the pieces were really on the board for this to be really good. And it's not that it's bad. I mean, don't get me wrong. I said I enjoyed it a lot. I think that it's just, in some ways, it just kind of feels like it ever so slightly missed the mark, where, it could have been something that was not only fun for me because I enjoy the genre, but I think it could have potentially kind of transcended the genre if it had kind of realized, I think, its full potential. But because it didn't, I think it does kind of, it is absolutely one of those shows. If you're not a sci-fi nut, then please God, steer clear of this. Yeah, absolutely. And that's unfortunate. I said I enjoyed it. But the things, I guess, that I was not a fan of, Ortega. I feel bad. I mean, I'm usually not too negative on people, but good Lord, the actress that plays her is, quite frankly, terrible. Martha Higarita, it's rough. It's interesting because there's a few scenes that we get of her with like her family and kind of like a Hispanic environment, and I think she's fine in that. We see her using Spanish a bit more, so part of me kind of just wonders, she's Spanish is probably her first language, and I just wonder if there's there's somewhat of a language barrier that's kind of not letting her bring the full range of emotions and full range that I think that she's maybe trying to go for, but she's just very wildly inconsistent across the show, and I don't know that the writing of the character really does her any favors. Certainly not the way that the story's told, especially from like the first few episodes, where I was kind of wondering what the fuck her character was even doing there for a lot of it. It's kind of they get into that a bit more, and
that's to the detriment the way that, like I said, I think that's largely the fault of the way they
I agree with that. I think that, with the benefit of hindsight, I was just like, okay, I kind of get it a little bit more. But in the moment, I was just like, what? This character does not work at all. So yeah, like I said, I don't want to get too mean or anything like that. I just think that she just.
I happen to think she was. I thought she was pretty cool.
I'm sure you did.
All right.
I'm sure you did. There's a lot of cool people in this show, and they like to show why they're cool.
There is. You shouldn't watch this with young children, I don't think. If you come to us for parental ratings and things, I would not advise watching this with young children. There's a lot of nudity. There's a lot of full frontal. There's a lot of things. To be seen. It's not even the nudity.
It's a graphic show. So I understand that in America, nudity is bad and graphic violence is fine.
Yeah, that's true.
But there's plenty of both. So I would agree. Maybe keep it on the back burner for your little kiddos, and they can discover it in a few years' time if they're so inclined.
I don't think that I don't know. I didn't find her character she didn't have a really good arc. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like a lot of people didn't.
I think that she had a decent arc. Again, I just think it took about 5 episodes to get to why she had an arc in the first place, because she's just kind of a lingering presence for a while. And then when we kind of get into her backstory and kind of how it involves Kovac, indirectly, I guess, it kind of made more sense. But again, it was just, as you mentioned, just the structure of it, just the pacing of it. It's just, sometimes it's glacial for a lot of these characters, where it's just like, what are they doing here? Same thing with the Elliot character. I thought, his introduction was cool, and then he just kind of hung out at the hotel for like a few episodes, and then, okay, now you're back up, now you're useful. It's like, well, I just think there's a stronger way to integrate these characters into the show,
sure,
in a more cohesive fashion than how we ended up getting it. So, I don't know. I mean, so it's missed opportunity in some respects, but I don't want to make it sound too negative. I did enjoy the show, certainly, for what it was. I just kind of wish that it kind of executed a little bit better. I think
Would you recommend it?
Yeah, I would recommend it. As I meant, I would recommend it to, again, anyone that's a fan of sci-fi in general. Other than that, I think that it's just too convoluted for its own good. It's too complex, and in a way that it probably didn't need to be. So I think that if you're willing to give your full attention to it, if it's something that interests you already, I think it's something that you can get a lot of enjoyment out of. Certainly the action sequences are something to write home about. There's a lot of really fucking cool choreographed sequences kind of throughout the season.
Fuck yeah, dude.
That were really, really awesome, and definitely something that I was pretty happy with when they did come about. I did want to make a side note. Miguel Sapochnik, I think we talked about him in many episodes ago that he was involved in this show. I think maybe when we got the first trailer for this, I thought he was going to get like a big episode to work with where some crazy shit was going down Game of Thrones style, but he did the pilot, and there was like one sequence in that was good. Don't get me wrong, but I was just like, man, why didn't they give this guy something crazy to work with? Anyway. Just a minor complaint in the scheme of things, but I did kind of feel it was a bit wasted in that regard. But no. Overall, I mean, I enjoyed it. I will say that if this is any indication of how I felt about it, I will watch a season 2 if a season 2 does come about. What about you? I mean, just generally season 2. Anything?
Yeah, I would recommend, if you're not into sci-fi though, it's hard sci-fi. So if you're not into it, don't watch it. But I think it's one of those shows that I think is like I said, it brings a lot to the table. It's just not executed particularly well. As far as like on a deeper level, you know, it's entertaining to watch. It's definitely a fun show, and there's things that made me laugh, and there's things that made me say, "Oh shit!" And I don't know. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. I just didn't. It didn't leave a lasting impact. You know what I mean? Just like I said, it felt shallow.
Yeah, no. I mean, I was invested in characters and in things, and I just kind of a lot of time, you know, we would come out with, you know, this, you know, would be this development, or you know, this character would do something, and I'd just be like, all right. Okay. You know, it wasn't like, there were moments absolutely of just like, oh, fuck yeah. Or like, oh, shit, what? You know, but then there was just as many moments of like, you know?
Sure.
So, yeah, it's
an inconsistent show, you know?
Yeah. I will say though, I think based purely on the world building that we saw present here, I'm inclined to believe that the book that this was based off of, also called Altered Carbon, does a pretty good job of establishing that. And I think that in trying to adapt probably a lot of what works on a written page, they got bogged down in a lot of it. And I think that some of it just didn't quite make the the transition from page to screen as well as I think they wanted it to. But I mean, if nothing else, this is a good 10-hour commercial for the book, because I'm definitely fucking curious about checking out the book personally. And there's actually 3 books that are out by Richard Morgan, all kind of about the Takeshi Kovacs character. So yeah, I mean, I might give it a whirl at some point. Again, when? Who's to say?
Right.
But I do know that our friends over at Ink to Film did an episode specifically about that first book. I think they actually did a couple episodes on it, and I know they did an episode on the TV show as well. I haven't listened to any of it, admittedly, because I was trying to steer way clear of spoilers. So it's something that if I do, and I'll kind of go with the book, you know, go read the book at some point, then I would love to check out their work on it. I'm sure they have tons of valuable insight, and I think I'll definitely listen to their TV show episode just to kind of get a feel for kind of, you know, if I'm right, and because I think they'll probably do a pretty good job of addressing, okay, this made the transition well, I think this worked better in the books, this maybe worked better in the shows, you know, whatever the case may be. So I'm interested to check that episode out that they did, and it's probably worthwhile for anyone that kind of has similar thoughts and questions to do so as well. So gonna do some spoilers?
Yeah, let's talk about some spoilers, man.
All right, full spoilers, guys, for Altered Carbon. Let me begin this spoiler section here with a shout out to an actor by the name of Matt Beadle. This guy played the neo-Nazi that was he was getting arrested and brought into the station, and then he gets the what are they called, the things that go in the back of the neck? Do you know what they're called?
No, I can't remember. I can't remember.
They're like little chip. I don't know. Whatever.
They're like little pucks. They slip into your spine or whatever.
Anyway, he was the actor that played the Nazi, and then he was the abuela for the Ortega family, and then
fucking aces.
And then finally, he was the Dimi too. He was the Russian hitman. He eventually had him in his. He was the sleeve for that character as well. So this is a guy that pretty seamlessly transitioned between three wildly different characters with three wildly different accents, and did it pretty flawlessly, I'd have to say. I mean, for a character that, in the scheme of things, is relatively minor, relative to kind of the show itself, like. That was a pretty good fucking pull. Like, how the fuck they got this guy to be amazing at this, and then they royally fucked one of the biggest castings of the entire show, seems kind of crazy to me. But either way, kudos to that guy, because he deserves it. That was a fucking hell of a performance.
He plays Abuela fucking awesome. That made me laugh so much, I laughed my ass off with Abuela. I don't know. I thought that was an awesome character. It's cool. It's really cool, man. There's some really cool shit in the show.
I agree. Did you think that having a sister as the big bad, Raylene, did you think that was pretty cool?
I thought she was cool, specifically when she was a goddamn ninja. I thought that was pretty cool. It seems like one of those convoluted things, you know what I mean? But she was a piece of shit. I mean, I think she was an all right villain, you know, but
See,
I don't know.
For me, I don't know. I have a hard time really kind of buying the motivations. And to take a step back, I fully understand that she's had a pretty fucked life, when it comes down to it.
Oh, no doubt.
So she's obviously pretty fucked in the head. But I don't know. I kind of just the whole motivation of we can be together, but in order to do so, I'm just going to kill everyone. It just I don't know. To me, it kind of just felt like there was interesting territory that they could have explored while kind of using that same construct, but it just felt, again, very clumsily handled, and they kind of just seemed like they kind of just reduced her more to a one-note type villain instead of really kind of exploring
somebody that's been alive for 200 years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I guess it's one of those things, maybe it's hard to fathom because she has been alive for so long, and, what is 200 years of kind of working towards this singular goal? I mean, what does that do to a person?
Yeah, but see, I think that's where I think that's where the rich guy, I called him the rich guy again. What, Bancroft?
Yeah.
I think his name was. Yeah, like I could. I don't know. I found his character pretty interesting.
I guess I agree with that. Like I said, he didn't seem one note. To be fair, James Purefoy is a good actor, but I thought that the character himself, when he was present, because he kind of just disappeared for the whole back half of the show, I thought that he was an interesting character. And he did feel like someone that, was untouchable.
God complex.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. I just didn't buy the whole Ray character, and I think a lot of it was that it just kind of felt like a very last minute kind of title into a nice pretty bow.
And she didn't exactly. My biggest problem with her character is she just wasn't explored nearly enough, and she didn't have enough. I don't think she really had enough screen time to really flesh out.
Well, that's just it. And I get that you kind of want to, not tip your hand too early. And I think maybe the first or second episode we see Takeshi having, a vision where he's talking to her, as a sister, as he remembers obviously back, when they were part of the stronghold with the envoys. But, right. I just think that the turn from, loving sister, I thought we got a pretty good, concise version of that in episode 7, the whole flashback episode that they did. But when it flipped back to the present day, it just didn't seem like there was enough there to really kind of justify the direction that they took for that character. And it's not that they couldn't have taken that direction for the character. It just didn't feel earned, I guess, is kind of how I felt.
Right. No, that's fair. She did play badass ninja.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, I mean,
pretty cool.
I wanted to like the character. I like Ishan Lachman. Respect to her for fucking doing a whole goddamn sword fight naked with like 17 clones. That's commitment right there.
I can't say. I don't know. I feel conflicted about her character because at the end of the season, you need to kill that bitch, man. You need to kill her. And I was. You need to take care of this problem. She's a terrible person. You know what I mean? At the end there, I was motivated. I was motivated for him, I guess, less than I was her. But there, I felt passionate about that character at the end. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like there was a way that they could have written it, and I don't know. This probably, I mean, it's just probably not the story they wanted to tell. So, who am I to say that this would have been better necessarily? But I just think it probably would have been more interesting for me, specifically for me, if there was a little bit more shades of gray with her character, where maybe by the end you did kind of it was probably the right thing for him to blow out her stack. That's what they're called. But I mean, by the end, it's like you said, it's like, well, it was the obvious thing to do, but I think there's a version of that scenario where it feels a lot more tragic overall. I mean, you could feel, you felt for him in the moment, but I just kind of felt like it didn't impact me. I should be feeling those same emotions that Tak is feeling in that, and I didn't. And I think that's just a failure of the characterization. I think that's a failure of the storytelling to really kind of relay the impact of those emotions in the moment.
Right, she felt less like a sister and more just like a flat out villain.
Yeah.
You know
exactly.
what I mean?
So I think that there was certainly something there that could have been more interesting, but it just didn't quite. I mean, really, that's pretty good summarization of a lot of the show. There's a lot of good ideas, and they're just not quite executed in the way that they could have been. So I don't know. I feel like I'm saying a lot of the same shit over again, but it was on the cusp of being something good. I mean, that said, there's room to grow too. Assuming this does get a second season, I'll touch on that a little bit. I mean, it's an expensive show. It's got to be an expensive show, so I'm sure that's certainly a consideration they'll have to think about when they look at possibly renewing it. Right. Other spoiler things. I mean, I'll kind of ask you about this. I mean, what'd you think about, that episode 7, which was basically like 90% flashbacks to the Stronghold, kind of.
No, I thought it was really cool. I really enjoyed his teacher. What's her name?
Kel, yeah.
Yeah. I thought she was a really strong character throughout the series. Season or episode 4. I really enjoyed episode 4.
Which one was that?
That was the one where he pulled a matrix and pulled himself out of the torture.
Oh, okay.
The torture thing.
The VR one, yeah. Okay.
And then shot. Yeah. I really, really enjoyed that episode. And she obviously played a strong role in that one. And then you get the who she is. And then it puts into perspective the book. Like they hands him the book in like the first episode, and you're like, oh, what the fuck was going on with this book? I don't understand. But then you at the end of the episode 7, you realize the importance of the book, and I don't know. I felt that there was a really strong. I think that's probably one of the strongest, interconnecting things between characters was between Takashi and Kel.
No, I agreed. I liked that relationship a lot. I thought that was good, and I kind of. As a foundation for kind of the motivations for Rey to kind of be, to see, that she's kind of being spurned in this relationship. I mean, not obviously, I don't think she's going for the same type of relationship, but, you could certainly see,
she's being abandoned.
Right. You could see Tak
right.
kind of drifting away and getting, seduced by something else and kind of leaving her in the dust. So I kind of get that. And I liked that as a beginning point. I just, again, as with what I've said before, it didn't quite sell it, I think, the way that I think that it could have. I think that there was potential there to mine that material in a way that could have reached the point that I wanted it to, but it didn't.
And she's incredibly badass.
Yeah, yeah. No, I said I was a big fan of episode 7, which was that big flashback centric episode.
And then holy shit, they did something that made all the people crazy and kill themselves and kill everybody.
Yeah, that was pretty nuts.
That was super nuts. I'd like to make it another thing too. I haven't talked about it at all. Mm-hmm. But the what are they called? The kill zone people.
Protectorate?
Yes, they look straight up kill zone.
Yeah. Well, they look pretty badass though.
They do look pretty badass. It's fucking cool. All of it's really cool. It's just a really cool show. I think it's a really cool show. But either way, yeah, episode 7 was a strong episode. I think that episode 4 was good, and I really enjoyed episode 6, and that was the ninja episode where they fight Rhino Man.
Yeah, that was kind of a fun episode. I mean, this show kind of, I feel like it kind of veered all over the place in terms of different settings and stuff that it kind of would go in and out of. Like, it is sometimes just straight Blade Runner, and then sometimes it goes into that, and it's just like, what the hell is going on in this show? Like, I enjoyed it, but that was kind of one of those things. And the fucking guy with like the red fucking Paul Phoenix hair, that guy was awesome.
Who kept like glitching in and out. Yeah. That one guy was in it too. He always plays cameos and shit. What's that guy's name? I thought he did a really good job. He was the one that was it was the guy that was torturing him in episode 4. I need to look it up. I'll find it. You can continue on. I'll say it when I find it.
Tom O'Pennicott?
Is that his name?
The guy that played the like the double sleeved version of the Russian hitman?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was cool. He's a good actor. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's got strong episodes. And it's got fun shit. I really enjoyed Poe, but I didn't connect with Poe's death.
Yeah, to me that's just an example of kind of what I was talking about, where cool character, cool concept, just doesn't feel fully explored, and Poe kind of just goes in and out as he's needed. So it's hard to really kind of get an emotional connection. We kind of see him established, then he's just kind of he's a fun presence. I enjoyed his presence in the show, but it just, it never quite established the connection I think that it wanted to, and that it wanted to kind of capitalize when he died at the end. So yeah, no, I agree. I it's many things. It's just one thing that could have been done just ever so slightly better, and it would have put it over the edge. But
right.
That's really pretty much it for me. Is there anything that you want to kind of touch on before we kind of wrap it up for our talks on Altered Carbon?
I enjoyed the tone and I found myself saying, God, what a terrible place to be. What a terrible world they live in.
Yeah.
It's just such a twisted environment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if there's any shining example of that, it's the fucking Head in the Clouds place that the whole kind of, I guess, last couple episodes takes place on, where it's
like a satellite.
Well, yeah, like rich people go there to literally just have sex and murder people. Except under the guy, with the victims under the guise that they'll be able to come back from it, into another sleeve, which is not the case at all. So it's a very I guess futuristic, horrific version of trafficking and kind of other very real life topics that it can certainly be related to. It's a fucking dark world. I mean, there's a lot of crazy shit, and I enjoyed that it explored some of that. But I agree. I liked the tone of it. Certainly, don't bring your fucking kids to this show. Let's put it that way.
It's awful. I mean, it's not. There's a lot of awful content. It deals with religion, deals with women and shit, and it's, I don't know, man. It deals with a lot of heady material.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that it kind of dipped its toes into a lot of it. Maybe it didn't, fully get into a lot of it, but I did like how it kind of touched on a few different aspects that certainly are relatable to a modern society.
And I feel like the show might be, and I don't know. This might sound stupid, but like if you're not accustomed to watching things that have deeper material to it, I feel like this is a good. This might be a good show to watch because it does dip its toes into so many relevant things, and it over over explains everything. You know what I mean? So you can kind of see visually what's going on here, and then it's laid out on a platter for you, and they explain everything. And you know, you can kind of point to what they're doing, and then like I said, it's explained for you. So you might be able to relate. You might be able to pull those sensibilities out and apply them to different movies and stuff that are you know, a little bit more cryptic with their messages.
Right.
Right. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So, second season, not officially renewed yet. But from kind of what it sounds like, well, Joel Kinnaman has signed on to work on another show for Amazon. People were kind of reading into that as possibly him exiting this show, which, I mean, really, by the end of it, if we do see, you know, him, it's not going to be as Takeshi. I think certainly if they continue the storyline for Takeshi Kovacs, he's going to be looking very different going forward. Whether or not, you know, he's going to get you know, a familiar sleeve to him, or if it's just going to be, you know, here's just another you know, person that you're going to look like now. You know, that's kind of inconsequential, I'd say, overall. You know, I don't think you need. I mean, honestly, it's for me, it's one of those things that if they do a second season, I wouldn't be surprised if none of the cast returns, honestly. I mean,
they don't need them to.
They don't need them to take it. You know, it'll probably take place off world, totally different planet. Like, yeah, I mean, there's really no reason unless you just want to have continuity. And
I feel like it would do I think it would do the show a disservice if they continued the story. Like, they did such a good job of building that universe and building that world that I think, like I said, I think it would do itself a disservice if they continued to kick a dog and there's different stories to be told in that environment. I think it would be really cool to see it.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. You know, expand the universe a bit more. I think that's definitely the way to take it. And honestly, I'm not attached to any of the characters aside from, you know, Takeshi, to the point where I would want to see their continued adventures. You know, I like him. I think it would be fun to see him in a different sleeve. And, you know, even maybe if they went and, you know, explored more of the flashbacks with the, you know, with the envoys, and maybe just the general backstory of the envoys versus the Protectorate, I think that would be a good, you know, familiar territory to explore, but you could still get into, you know, gaps that were already missing that we didn't see in this show. So it's still new while still being familiar. But I think I agree, overall, if you're going to do a second season, then say, you know, fuck it. New cast, new setting. You know, obviously it's still going to be the same universe, and, you know, he's going to be the same Takeshi that we've seen that's kind of evolved from, you know, when he got taken off ice. But yeah, I mean, the opportunity's there, so you might as well take advantage of it. You know, as I mentioned, there is three books that have been written. Second one's called Broken Angels, so we'll see if the second season, if it does come to fruition, if it takes inspiration from that book. As someone unfamiliar with the source material, I can't say if that would be a good thing or a bad thing, but certainly it's on the page there, so that would probably be the most obvious place to look for kind of a starting point going forward. But yeah, I think that's it for Altered Carbon. Would you agree?
That's it, man. We covered it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, said if you're into that sort of thing, definitely check it out. If you're not, I mean, as with all things, you should probably form your own opinion, but don't say we didn't warn you if it's not anything, you know, if it's not your cup of tea, shall we say. Right. So, the only thing that I've really been doing, other than kind of working on this and, you know, the usual things that happen in life, is that I've watched the Cloverfield Paradox. So do you want to briefly get into that?
Sure.
All right. Well,
caught this one too. I caught this one the night they released the trailer.
Yeah. I had to work the next day, so I made the responsible decision not to watch it then and there. But yeah, I mean, just overall, you know, no spoilers at this point. What did you think about it?
I thought this was another thing that Netflix put out that I enjoyed watching, but was it unlike Altered Carbon had like if you could look at it on a line, it would look like a heartbeat. You know, it'd be like, you know, it's great, and then it's like, what's going on, and then it's great again, and then Cloverfield resembles like a slope. Like it started out good, and then I don't know, just kind of steadily declined as it went on. I still enjoyed it. It never got like unbearably bad or anything, and I don't want to say it's bad. It's just it's not the
It's not
it's
good.
just not it's just not good. But I did enjoy. I caveat. I did a little asterisk or whatever. I did enjoy watching it. I enjoyed the movie. What do you think about it?
It's interesting because I'd been excited for this movie for a while when it was known as God Particle, and we knew for a while it was going to be Cloverfield 3. But at that point it was scheduled for a theatrical release in February. Then it got pushed to April, and then boom, Netflix acquires it and just stealth drops it right after the Super Bowl. So it's interesting for me because I kind of walked into this movie with a little bit of a different mindset. And I kind of feel like I treat a lot of Netflix stuff with a different mindset, like Netflix movies and stuff like that,
right.
Where I don't know, if I wandered to the theater, my expectations are just different. I don't know if that's a me thing or what it is, but my mindset is just kind of completely different. So I
think that's fair.
Yeah. So I think that if I saw literally the exact same movie and it came out in April in theaters and I watched it, I would kind of just be like,
oh,
yeah, well, movie pass though. But when I watch it on Netflix, I'm kind of just like, I mean, part of it is just kind of the marketing machine in full effect where I'm like, oh, like they just fucking just dropped this thing out of nowhere. Like, that's awesome, which it is awesome. Don't get me wrong.
And it was a super well-made trailer too. That trailer, it was awesome.
No, I agree. But it is one of those things where I'm like, fuck yeah, it's on Netflix. I'll just spin it up whenever I want to, watch it, and that'll be cool. So I did just that, and I watched it. I'm like, this is a mess. This isn't great, but I had fun with it.
Right.
I did enjoy it myself. I did enjoy it. I would agree with your assessment in the sense that it starts very strongly, and then it just as it goes on, it kind of becomes gradually more and more nonsensical and just completely goes off the rails at some point and never really recovers from it. It just kind of ends there. But I did enjoy it. I honestly do think that a decent amount of that is just part of the marketing and then partly just, yeah, I mean, it's on Netflix. Cool. Like I can just watch this anywhere, anytime now. It's I kind of like that vibe on it. And, I don't know. I kind of was like, yeah, it's a Netflix movie. So I don't know. Do you want to get into some brief spoilers on it, since it's kind of gets a little crazy here and there. It's kind of hard to talk about it without getting too specific with it. But all right, so full spoilers for the Cloverfield Paradox. So skip over this if you haven't watched it, or just listen. It doesn't really matter. It's probably going to be very confusing if you haven't seen the movie, I guess, shall we say? But I guess this isn't really a spoiler, but I thought it was actually a really fucking good cast, first of all. Definitely didn't feel like a Netflix original movie in terms of cast. Definitely felt like a theatrical movie. Gugu Mbatha-Raw, she was great, the main character, but a lot of the supporting cast was excellent. David Oyelowo, Chris O'Dowd, Elizabeth Debicki. Yeah, really, really strong cast, but more spoiler-ish. Wow, I mean, I really liked the idea of the particle accelerator, the God particle, and then boom, you get fucking transferred into an alternate dimension.
That's cool.
Like there's a lot of fucking badass shit that happened in the movie. It's just a lot of it just didn't really actually make any sense in the scheme of things. Like the moment where they fucking find whatever her name is behind the panel, like she's fucking screaming. They're hearing the scream and they're like, what the fuck is that?
Right.
They go and track her down. Like that was just such an awesome moment. But I think that was kind of the last moment before it just totally just became super nonsensical. Because like that kind of makes sense. Like, okay, I guess they'd kind of merged with the version of the ship in that alternate dimension. And I guess maybe she was there in that point in space and time, and then she just got sucked into that one point. But then there's like the whole thing with the arm, like why is his arm
wanting to write messages?
Well, yeah, like how does his arm know what to write? Well, it's not even, I mean, it's like, okay, so theoretically that maybe that arm's from that version of the character from a different dimension, but how does he know that the gyro compass is in the dude's stomach? Or like there's just kind of leaps in logic where I'm just like,
maybe the dude ate it in the fucking other dimension, dude. Like, I
mean, how's it get? How do you get that down your mouth? I don't in one piece.
Yeah, I don't know. I found myself not asking. I don't know. It's like the worms. we found the worms. Like it had an over the top kind of humor to it, which I kind of thought was charming. But like I said, I I don't know. Like I found myself not asking why, more so asking what are they going to do next? You know what I mean?
I agree. It was kind of that horror movie type thing where you just you check your brain at the door and you're just like, what shenanigans are gonna
right.
ensue from this point?
And I think that's
what are these crazy cats getting up to now?
When they go to land the thing and the giant monster jumps out of the clouds to eat it.
Did he eat it or did he just jump past it? Because my initial interpretation was that he just ate it, and I'm like, well, that seems very fucking anticlimactic, doesn't it?
I'm not sure. Did he eat it or did he not eat it? Now you're making me ask. I don't know if he ate it or not.
I don't know. That's what I want. I initially read it as, oh, he just fucking leapt out and ate it out of the sky.
That's what I thought too.
Like that feels like a fucking Scooby-Doo type ending, doesn't it?
I laughed my ass off. Like so. I think it's definitely what they were going for. It felt. I don't know. In one sense, I felt like it conflicted with itself a little bit. Like I think a movie that does this really well is Cabin in the Woods. Like from the get-go, you know what you're getting into with Cabin in the Woods. With this one, I think it kind of conflicted with itself because I definitely didn't get those vibes all the time. Right. So it's kind of one of those deals where maybe I feel like it didn't know what it was. It wanted to be something else, but then like it kind of wanted to be the other thing too at the same time, and it just kind of didn't work. But
yeah, and I mean, we could also probably partially at least chalk that up to the fact that it was kind of retrofitted to be a Cloverfield movie. It certainly wasn't planned as one from the get-go, so
okay,
it's entirely possible that whatever reshoots or script adjustments they made to kind of accommodate it to be part of the greater Cloverfield universe. Definitely kind of fucked with the original script in terms of just kind of tone and consistency of it. So, I mean, it's certainly something to think about.
Right. But
I did enjoy it, though.
Yeah, fun movie, man. Fun movie.
It was fun. It was a fun time. I mean, they said as a Netflix movie,
watch it.
Give it a go. Like it's totally fine. If this was in theaters, I wouldn't give it a theater recommendation. But
I'd say once again, I'd say catch it on Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, given the medium, I think it's a good medium for it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So, I enjoyed my time with it. I mean, I think that in terms of kind of the Cloverfield universe as a whole, it does kind of a decent job of kind of being like, yeah, they just fucked with everything, and that's why there's a bunch of crazy shit happening. I mean, the way I see it, and this could be completely off base, is that the first Cloverfield is a entirely separate dimension from both what we saw in Paradox and 10 Cloverfield Lane. 10 Cloverfield Lane's its own dimension where shit popped off and then aliens invaded, and then 10 Cloverfield Lane, there's this big fucking version of the monster. Because the version of the monster we see, his head's fucking poking above the clouds, all right? So that's a good, I don't know how many times bigger than what we saw in Cloverfield, who was the size of a building in New York.
Like a building, right.
Like that's a big fucking difference. So maybe that was a baby and this is Mama Cloverfield. I don't know, but I don't know. It's interesting that they tried to kind of tie everything together. I don't know that they needed to do that. I think they could have just kept it as an anthology series where there's just very loose connections of, it's just kind of general themes that we're playing with instead of making it much more of an overt, like, oh no, it's hashtag all connected. But I don't know. It's fun.
Yeah, that's my opinion about it. It's a fun movie. Watch it. I think you'll have fun with it.
As long as you don't take it too seriously. Like I said, that's really it for me. I'll turn this over to you. Anything else you want to talk about?
I watched a horror movie called The Ritual.
Oh, okay.
And I thought that was well done. Thought it was well done. Well done show, or well done movie, I should say. I recommend you check that out if you want to watch a horror movie. Not the scariest thing in the world, but I mean, I think, like I said, I think it's well made. And I started Dark again. I intend to finish it this time. I watched.
How far into it are you now?
I started it over, so I watched episode 1 last night, and then I intend to catch episode 2 after we get off of here. And I'm going to try to do an episode a night, and just kind of ride that out. But that's the score for that show is incredible. The cinematography is incredible. It's just it at least for episode 1, I can't speak for the other episodes, but episode 1 left a episode 1 certainly leaves a good taste. So I'll finish it out this time. I stopped watching it after episode 3, I think last time. I can't remember why I quit watching it, but definitely going to ride out the wave. So hopefully next time when we get together, I'll have a opinion about that show. But other than that, that's pretty much it, man. I haven't really been up to a whole lot. Cool.
Well, I guess feels kind of strange to say it since we've only been recording for, or I guess in the scheme of things, not as long as we're certainly accustomed to recently. That's it, right?
That's it, man.
All right. Well, in that case, listeners, thank you for tuning in, as usual. Spread the word if you could. Tell your friends about us, and support us if that is something that you would like to do on Patreon. Patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat, or head to watchreviewrepeat.com/premium. Either of those will get you the perfect spot to become a patron. And basically, Patreon is a platform that helps us out, and it's a way for us to kind of cover our costs for making the podcast. So in doing so, you're obviously helping us out, but you're also going to get some stuff in return. You get bonus episodes. Our current bonus episode is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Our current bonus episode is the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 1, which we did with our friend Henrique Jamie. We're doing more. We're going to do Phase 2. We're going to do Phase 3. You get early access to all of our regular episodes. So I know that the 2018 episode that was out most recently, that was up 2-3 days prior to its actual release. So it's definitely worth your time.
Yeah,
it's definitely worth something. If you're listening to us anyway, and you kind of want to help us out, then absolutely, we encourage you to do so.
You could even get the Bosch monologue.
Well, I will leave that in your hands to record. And we can sort that out later.
Thank you for tuning in. You're listening to Andrew's Bosch monologue, seasons 1 through 3. I could do it all in like a sultry midnight radio kind of vibe.
Yeah, I would listen to it. He said, "I just don't know how many people are." I don't know. That could be pretty good. I'm on board now. I'm on board with this.
We could change the music, the intro music, to like a Midnight with Delilah or whatever the fuck it is. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I digress. Continue on.
Yeah. Website is watchreviewrepeat.com. Check it out. Check us out on the social medias. We are at WRRPod on Twitter. I'm at Cbro360. You are at DMeadows91. Send us any questions, comments, suggestions to our email at watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. And our good friend Kevin MacLeod has once again loaned us the rights to use Mechanolith as our intro and outro track, which is licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. And next week, better get your dashiki ready, motherfucker.
Oh.
It's time for Black Panther.
I'm so hype.
We're going to see it together, too.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
In an IMAX environment. It's going to be great.
I look forward to it. And I look forward to recording our episode about it thereafter. So with that, we'll leave it there. Have a good night, guys.
Adios.